You wake up early, the house is quiet, and the same questions are running on a loop. What forces are actively trying to destroy this company? And what exactly have we built to ensure we endure them? Most leadership teams answer those questions by looking at dashboards. They obsess over quarterly reports and KPIs, believing that tracking their operations is the same thing as protecting them. This chart shows the mechanical limitation of that approach. A dashboard can only render an event that has already occurred. By definition, every data point you look at is an artifact of the past. The problem with governing a business by the rearview mirror is that you remain completely blind to the terrain ahead. You cannot see the cultural shift, the infrastructure failure, or the competitor's pivot until the leading edge hits it. Even organizations that brand themselves as advanced data or AI companies fall into this trap. They process history faster, but they remain structurally designed to react, and reacting guarantees you will eventually react too late. The solution is not adding more AI to the same broken framework. We need better organizational design. Curious, that realization is the genesis of Movie Night, a framework for building the world's first executive intelligence system. We call this model the adaptive enterprise. It is an organization engineered to continuously learn from its environment, anticipate threats before they manifest, and autonomously govern its own operations. Over a time horizon of 50 or 100 years, the competitive advantage of these organizations will have very little to do with the software they run today. Their advantage will be the structural ability to simulate tomorrow. Before you can trust an intelligence system to run a company, you have to bind it to an unbreakable code. This diagram outlines that structure, starting with a foundational block of key mission indicators. These constitutional principles form an immutable constitution. The system deflects all override attempts. No AI, CEO, or board member can violate these rules. Once the soul of the company is protected, the operational backbone snaps directly onto it. We call this layer Morphe. It handles the automation, the policy guardrails, and the daily execution of the business. This specific architecture is what makes rapid, automated execution possible at scale. The company can move fast precisely because the mechanical backbone is physically restrained by the constitutional soul. Sitting directly on top of that operational backbone is the executive intelligence layer. It starts by generating a 3D wireframe network, a real-time, living simulation of the entire organization. Every asset is mapped as a digital twin. The intelligence layer projects them forward, asking what if, and running thousands of alternate futures simultaneously. It tests the digital twin against extreme stress, executing automated premortems, generating black swan events, and running red team attacks. When a specific path pulses red in the simulation, the system identifies the existential threat years before it arrives. We see the landscape shifting before our competitors notice a breeze. At the same time, it hunts for opportunity and alliance intelligence. The system calculates exactly which relationships and political capital we need to build today, so they mature by the time we actually need them. A traditional dashboard forces you to memorize the past. The executive intelligence layer allows the enterprise to actively remember the future. The most interesting output of this massive predictive engine is benevolence. Because the system anticipates crises and solves for them in advance, the organization is never caught scrambling to survive a disruption. That structural stability creates a surplus of time and resources, allowing the AI to continuously scan the environment and ask, who needs us today? When a local disaster hits or a community struggles, we can deploy resources quickly and quietly. You do not become a loved company through clever marketing campaigns. You become loved by engineering the structural capacity to show up first for communities and families when it matters most. When you combine that predictive brain with a benevolent heart, the resulting architecture achieves a state of anti-fragility. This diagram illustrates the difference between resilience and anti-fragility. A resilient company survives a shock and returns to normal. An anti-fragile company absorbs the chaos and uses it to grow thicker, expanding its capability each time a shock strikes. The system's institutional memory records every disruption and failed attack, translating those lessons into compounding strategic moats around our intellectual property, our data, and our relationships. Most traditional companies are lucky to build a single defensive moat. The adaptive enterprise builds a constantly evolving, impenetrable ecosystem. Which brings us to the final question. If this enterprise still exists in 100 years, what guarantees that it survived the departure of its original founders? Longevity is not an accident. It is the direct result of ruthless fidelity to the original mission and an uncompromising system of self-governance. The ultimate goal of the adaptive enterprise is not to outsmart the market for a few quarters. It is to build a deeply rooted system that continually serves, outlasts its creators, and makes the organization a better ancestor to humanity.